But we started asking this question mainly because a lot of the to-do group meetings are all Chatham House rules, and depending on the topic, people seem to like to be able to talk openly and not be worried about what they're saying about their OSPO, and they the potential to get in trouble for something later. So, um, yep. So okay, so we'll go ahead and record. Welcome to the OSPO working group meeting for Thursday, May 15th. This is a CHAOSS meeting, so we are, of course, under the CHAOSS Code of Conduct. So please keep that in mind and be kind to each other. The first item we have on the agenda is the UN Open Source Week. So I'm curious if people are planning to attend that.
I am
This
for the first time ever. So yeah.
Yeah, me too. I got invited last year and I was like, I don't want to do one more trip to the US.
My
But you're
first.
coming this year. That's interesting.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And Laura, how about you?
Yeah, my first as well.
Very good. Yeah,
Cool.
I think it's gonna be fun. Um, so what are you looking forward to there? They've got a bunch of stuff going on. I'm actually not gonna be there for the hackathons. I decided to come. I made my travel arrangements and decided to come starting on the 18th, and I'm now regretting it a little bit after looking at what's going on in some of the hackathon days. So
Yeah, I was thinking about that, but I asked for an updated list and they sent me one and I was like, ooh, no, I'll go.
yeah.
I haven't booked my flight yet, so I haven't actually decided whether I'll be there on the 17th or the 18th yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this should be fun. I heard really good things about the last one. Anything else anyone wants to talk about the UN Open Source Week? It's just really to kind of get a pulse of what people were thinking. So relicensing and forks. So those of you who know me know that I've been spending, I don't know, I've spent a big chunk of, I guess, the last almost a year doing research into relicensing and forks. So specifically looking at Elasticsearch and the OpenSearch fork, Terraform and the OpenTofu fork, and then Redis and the Valkey fork. So I've spent a lot of time digging into the data. Um, and so I'm curious. So I guess this is a small group. I don't know how much insight we have, but I'm curious if organizations switched to some of the forks after the relicensing.
I can kind of speak from the Valky side because I was
Yeah.
part of that team. Yeah, a lot of people did, but those people that didn't likely also didn't know it was relicensed. That
Mm.
was my experience when I was on the AWS side. Um, I went to several events on behalf of Valky where I've talked to people and I'm like, yeah, if you're running a current version of Redis, you're stuck, or even, you got to figure that out. And several organizations just made the jump based on the fact that one was truly open and the other was complicated. And being, one-to-one compatible initially was obviously a huge help there.
Yeah. So we're
I
talking about, oh, go ahead, Laura.
I work for the University of California OSPO network, and so more the academic side of things than the business side. And it's certainly something that I have heard maintainers talking about, but I don't know that there was like a consensus necessarily about how it was resolved.
Yeah, that makes sense. So Mila, we're talking about the relicensing and forks, and I'm curious if organizations did a switch after some of these relicensing and moved to the forks, or did people stay with the original project? I mean, from VMware's standpoint, I was at VMware when the Elasticsearch OpenSearch fork happened, and I think we pretty much stayed with Elasticsearch. I think we bought some licenses where we needed to do that. I think we maybe just stopped packaging it with things where it wasn't absolutely required. Because in our view, the OpenSearch fork was still very new. And it was AWS, so we were just trading Elastic for Amazon, and so we weren't really comfortable with that. So we never, we didn't make the switch. Things could have changed. I mean, I left there a few years ago, so I don't know what they decided to do with some of the newer forks.
Interesting. I heard Chris was sharing, but I didn't get the content. I think in the past 2 years, I'm in the team. I think most of the time we kind of choose open source rather than licensing. Or maybe it's most of the time like AWS will do a fork or other directions.
Yeah. And then I'm also curious. So Elastic and Redis added the AGPL after relicensing it. So the Elastic adding the AGPL, that was I think August 2024. It was right before OpenSearch went into the Linux Foundation, which was interesting, coincidental in gigantic air quotes timing. And then Redis just did the same thing just recently. They just added the AGPL. Does that make any difference as far as anyone's concerned?
I mean, it's hard to build stuff that other folks can consume as any kind of SaaS product with the AGPL. So I know a lot of people are hesitant to switch back if they made the switch, like they're just plowing ahead with the open source version. But yeah, I'm not sure people actually have a good grasp of how the AGPL works and how it affects their products too. So
I think something very interesting I heard today is like they think about Redis still have a very has a lot of pressure for monetization, so that they feel like then even though they add they're kind of like open sourced again, but there is still a lot of risk there because of their pressure from the VC.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, so yeah, what both of you said were kind of my thoughts on this as well. Like the AGPL is hard for lots of companies. There are a certain set of companies that will not use products that use the AGPL. So, a lot of companies, it's just a non-starter. They just don't use AGPL projects because it can be problematic, like Chris said, if you're building stuff with these open source projects that are under the AGPL.
yeah, as someone writing a new license policy, AGPL is definitely on our no-no list.
Yeah, it was when I was at a previous company as well, for sure. Yeah, so I was just actually digging into some of the data today, because we're now 6 months past Elasticsearch adding the AGPL and OpenSearch moving into the Linux Foundation. And the only thing I've looked at so far is organizational participation. So the people who are contributing to those projects and the companies that they work for. And neither of those things really made any difference. OpenSearch doesn't have more contributors, at least not to the OpenSearch core project. They really don't have any more contributors than they had before from other companies outside of Amazon, which I found surprising. I wanted to sit down with someone like Chris Friedane and talk to him about it. Because what I wonder is maybe they're getting more contributions in other repositories, because they've broken it out, and OpenSearch is made up of a lot of different things. And so I'm wondering what's behind that. So I'm gonna talk to somebody before I really publish any of that result. And looking at Elasticsearch, in the 6 months after they added the AGPL, they had no one who does not work at Elastic who made more than 10 commits. 0. They had one in the year before the AGPL. One person who didn't work for Elastic had made more than 10 commits. So they never had much organizational diversity anyways, but the AGPL doesn't seem to be helping them. But it might be helping them on the usage side. And so I'm going to look at forks and stars, because I've actually got that data. I just need to analyze it for the right time periods, because that you can use that as kind of a proxy for usage. And then I haven't looked at project health at all. So that's, something else that that we're working on in the data science working group as well. Any other thoughts, questions on any of that? I find it a fascinating topic myself.
Yeah,
I just find it very interesting. I was like digging into the data of stuff like this, because it's yeah, there's a lot of drama around it, which makes it interesting to actually then move out of the drama and just look at the data. So I find those kinds of things sort of fun.
Yeah, I think it's a great follow-up of your research on like Elasticsearch, your license talk last year.
Yeah, and and like I said, we're working on some project health measurements as well. So I'll be curious to see the health of these projects when you kind of compare them against each other, when you look at them before and after the time period. So I think that's gonna be really interesting.
Definitely.
And there is plenty of room. So if there's anything else anyone wants to talk about, please feel free to add them to the agenda here while I talk about the last item that I added to the agenda, which is the practitioner guide. So just to recap. So out of the data science working group, we have a series of practitioner guides. So many of them are, so far they've all been getting started guides. So how to make your project more responsive, how to improve contributor sustainability, how to improve organizational participation, how to get started with security for your project. And so the one that I am just in the process of writing, so I've just written the first draft of, is getting started with sunsetting an open source project. So as we know, not every open source project will or should live on forever. And especially within open source program offices, you really need to look at those old, abandoned, crusty projects and do something with them. Responsibly archive them. It was something that we did. We had a whole thing around it at VMware. We had a whole process, and a lot of this is based on what we did at VMware. And by we, I mean Stefka Dimitrova, who was the one that did most of it. So you see that down in the resources section. So a lot of this is based on the work that she did as part of my team when we were at VMware. But I would love some feedback on this. So I'm not going to read the guide, because it's a number of pages. But like all of the practitioner guides, it has sort of an introduction section. So this is the why sunsetting is important. It has 3 metrics, which is what we do. We don't overwhelm people with metrics. We pick 3 that we think are probably most relevant, and talk a little bit about why they're applicable to sunsetting, in this case, a project. We talk about diagnosis. So in this case, how do you decide whether a project should be, is a candidate for being sunsetted based on the data? We have a little list of additional metrics. And then for most projects or for most guides, this is called making improvements. But with sunsetting, you're not really making an improvement. You're making a change. So I renamed step 4, and this just talks about what you do to sunset a project. And it has communication is a huge part of it. There's lots of stuff you have to communicate in lots of different places. Then you have to actually archive it. And then there's also a special case, and this happens within especially corporate OSPOs, where you need to sunset an active project because your company has decided not to work on it anymore, and you didn't really have any other contributors to take it over. And so you need to think about how you do that responsibly. We had that conversation at VMware many times with projects where a business unit would have convinced a whole bunch of our customers to use this cool open source project that we were working on, and then 2 years later the strategy has changed and none of those teams are working on it anymore. And what do you do? So that's kind of the special case. Some cautions and considerations, that's part of all of our guides, some additional reading, and then just like academic references. So I would encourage you just to have a look at it and just leave comments, suggestions, anything you'd like to tell me to improve the guide, because this is, like I said, this is based on what Stefka and I did at VMware, but I'm sure there's probably stuff I'm missing. But again, this is a get starting guide. So this isn't a comprehensive everything in the world guide. This is what do people need to get started with thinking about the process of sunsetting projects. Any questions or initial reactions?
Then where do you want to post it and share it to? Like, is it more like a guidance suggestion to general open source projects?
Yeah, so here, let me I'll show you that's not the page, but the guides page. So this is where it will be posted, is here on the CHAOSS practitioner guides page. And the getting started guides are designed for people who may or may not be experts in how to analyze data, or even, frankly, even experts in open source. And, we see as the audience for these primarily like open source program offices, project leads, community managers, and, maintainers, and other people who want to, better understand how to improve their projects. But this is kind of the core audience.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, questions? Any other agenda items? Because we've run out of the things that I wanted to talk about. Okay, we do have just one set of reminders. So for those of you who are going to be at the Open Source Summit North America event in Denver, we do have a CHAOSScon that's tagged onto that. So it's the day after the Open Source Summit on Thursday. So you do have to register for the Open Source Summit, and CHAOSS is an add-on. It's like $10 or something. It's a small amount. Basically, when we didn't have that, people would just register and not show up. So this just make sure that people are serious about actually coming. And then if you are going to be there, we're going to have a CHAOSS booth. So anybody who wants to sign up to do that, just join that Slack channel and send a message there, because we're always looking for people to staff the booth. And it is also super fun to do the CHAOSS booth, because it's not a corporate booth. You're not trying to sell anything. We're not collecting leads. We're just hanging out and talking to anybody who wants to come talk to us about anything related to CHAOSS. And we usually have 2 people, so we try not to leave people alone, unless it's Elizabeth, because she knows everything, so she's comfortable with that. But we try to pair people up, and it is just a lot of fun. Like it's not like what traditional booth duty. It's just hanging out at a table talking to people. So I'd encourage you to do that. Yeah. All right. Anything else? All right. Well, thank you everybody so much for coming, and I'll see you around at other CHAOSS meetings, or I guess this one in 2 weeks. So thanks for coming. It's good to see everybody.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.